looking back to the early days of the Xbox One X, I think it's really within people's rights to say that Microsoft failed to deliver what they were promised. And, people were waiting for some first party games from Microsoft, and they never really panned out, myself included. And we would hype up E3 every year because you expected it, and Microsoft would say it would be the best E3. And the truth of the matter is, how could it ever be the best E3 when they had like five gaming studios after 2015? Like it really, I don't know why we expected so much more, but to me, looking back, it was silly, right? Now, what we have is Sony's delivering. They're delivering quite a few good games right from the beginning of the generation with the PlayStation 5. And they sort of, with this bit of news, really kind of kicked Microsoft a little bit when they're down. Microsoft has had what we like to consider a bad week. Okay, there was the DRM issues that happened earlier. Of course, that's going to always make people freak out. People like kind of go back to that whole Xbox One situation where there's DRM and we don't know what to do about it and this kind of stuff. Yeah, it sucks. And Microsoft needs to get that kind of worked out right. And then there was the whole issue with the delays. Now, delays are bad, but they are also good because you don't want a bad game. And you don't want to have a situation with a cyberpunk type situation, right? You don't want that to be the case. You already have a lot of people discounting Game Pass. You already have a lot of people saying Microsoft doesn't know how to make games. Microsoft doesn't know how to do this. Microsoft doesn't know how to do that. And so basically the way I look at it is Microsoft has a lot to kind of prove people wrong. And hopefully they're going to be able to kind of accomplish that and pull that off. Will they be able to do that? That's a totally different story. I think that it really kind of comes down to what will Microsoft be able to kind of rebound from that. But Sony did actually come out and they got even better news today. Things are really looking up for PlayStation. They're able to get more stock out there. They're able to sell more stock. And now you have a couple of pretty interesting bits of information. So the first thing that I wanted to talk about was, Microsoft had all this momentum, right? They literally did. They had all this momentum. And then they let it kind of fall by the wayside. They have this habit of, kicking themselves, shooting themselves in the foot. Now, Matt Piscatella of the MPD Group has revealed on Twitter that the PS5 topped April's 2022 in terms of hardware dollar sales, while Nintendo Switch reached a new milestone and surpassed PS4 and life-to-date sales. According to Piscatella, video game hardware dollar sales were up 16% year-on-year, reaching $343 million, primarily due to increased supply for the PS5 and Xbox Series X and S. However, hardware spending fell to $1.5 billion, representing a drop of 9% year-on-year. In terms of software, LEGO Star Wars Skywalker Saga was the best-selling game of April and is also the second best-selling game of the year so far. Meanwhile, Elden Ring came in second place last month and still remains the best-selling game of the year to date. It also eclipsed Call of Duty Vanguard as the biggest-selling premium game of the 12-month period ending April 2022. So Sony has managed to go out there and kind of recapture what they were trying to accomplish. And you know what? I think that that's pretty excellent that they were able to do that. Now, the thing that they should really kind of be very careful about, and that this is interesting because they were able to allocate stock, and I feel like if they're going to be able to allocate stock, that's going to be something that realistically is going to help them in the long run, because I don't think anybody is saying that Xbox is going to actually be able to beat PlayStation in overall sales, like worldwide and things like that. But I think that we're already going to see that it's going to remain much closer this generation than last generation, where the PlayStation 4 was already 10 plus million units ahead at the year and a half mark. So yeah, I think that Sony is doing good. They managed to find some stock, sort of a little extra kick in the back, probably coincidentally anyway, with the bad Xbox news. But that wasn't where the news actually stopped, and I'm going to link this other article as well. So we all know it comes down to the games. Also, we know that Microsoft has a lot of games announced, like 14 of them or something. And we know that, there's going to be some delays, but overall, we know that there's games coming. With that being said, on the Sony side, things are a little bit more questionable because a lot of Sony studios have already released something just recently, right? And so it takes time to, obviously make new games. And so Sony would have to go to maybe third parties and things like that, like they did with Final Fantasy 16 or like they did with Forspoken. Now this newest rumor, which take with a grain of salt, and I'm going to link this and you guys can check it out. The new Silent Hill game, it looks like there was actually some images that were leaked before Konami actually took them down. Very interesting. Rumors about the next chapter in Silent Hill franchise have gathered steam overnight as a series of images were leaked by a respected insider, quote unquote. However, the images were quickly removed as they were hit by a copyright claim, which resulted in their account being temporarily suspended. It's back up now, but obviously the images are not available anymore, and I'm obviously not going to show them here, but it definitely lends to the leak images of some level of authenticity, as the copyright holder wouldn't go to the trouble of asking them to be removed if they weren't the real deal. Even so, still take it with an extra grain of salt. According to him, the images were from an older version of Silent Hill game that dates back to 2020, and he insists that this isn't the only entry in the series in development. You can still view them online, but again, even the article that I'm linking will not have them because nobody wants to get hit with a with the copyright thing. So yeah, it's very interesting. Silent Hill hasn't been seen since 2012 Silent Hill Downpour, with Kojima Productions' planned Silent Hill's reboot ending actually canceled. As mentioned, rumors have been rampant for a while now that Konami is looking to resurrect the series, and sources close to VGC claim that multiple entries in the franchise are in the work, a rumor that was corroborated by Gamatsu a few days later. Will we ever see it? Sony has some kind of showcase. They have to have some kind of showcase this year. So we'll see what happens. And, at the end of the day, it's going to be very interesting and kind of fun to see exactly what we get from this, right? Like, I think Silent Hill is one of those franchises that, is loved. But I think that it also is maybe looked at a little bit differently. Maybe people exaggerate how loved it is. I'm not sure exactly how the sales for these games go, but I do know that, a lot of time people kind of exaggerate how something is kind of looked at. Now, there could also be some kind of Metal Gear reboot or Metal Gear remake in the works as well. That'd be something that I'd be interested in as well, but Sony definitely is going to have some kind of event this year with some kind of release announcements, and maybe that's where they're saving this, because if you look at it, they've got God of War Ragnarok, they've got Spider-Man 2, and Wolverine. Those are the only 3 first-party games they have left, and Ragnarok was one that was originally announced with the launch of the PlayStation 5, was actually supposed to come out last year, and there's rumors that it might get delayed even into next year, and Sony could actually probably not feel too threatened to delay it, because, I already saw fans on Twitter try and say, well, Sony has no real needs to rush the game now because, Microsoft, they delayed Starfield, and, now they can take their time and not have to rush it. Listen, regardless of what was happening with Starfield, Sony should take their time with God of War Ragnarok and all their games, and not get caught up in that whole fanboy meta game where it's like, oh, we got to rush this out to release it ahead of this game or whatever, right? Like, if the game's not ready, then don't release it. If it is ready, then release it. But people are really kind of getting in their feelings about this stuff, and it's kind of unfortunate. For me, I would love to see a brand new Silent Hill game. I would love to see a reboot to that. I like these franchises coming back. I would hope that we get to see some of that in the future as well. When it comes down to it, man, I think I'm excited to see exactly what, Sony has up their sleeve, because like I said, even though Microsoft did delay some of these games, we also have a situation where clearly Microsoft has, the upper hand in games announced, even though they haven't had the upper hand in games released, which puts them in a good position, and Sony clearly we'll have to make some announcements going forward. So, we'll see what happens. It's a very interesting time to be a gamer. It's funny how things get kind of blown up out of proportion and into proportion and all that kind of stuff. We'll see what happens in the future. If you enjoy the content, please leave a like on the video. It helps the video to be seen, and it helps the channel to grow. I'm Crap Gamer, and this has been Crap Gamer Reviews, your home of gaming news, opinions, reviews, and much more. Thank you so much. Rack 'em up, fact 'em up, Crap Gamer 'em up. Crap Gamer out.